Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Bushka. Today is review day, baby. Today we're looking at the E50M, the big German medium that I think is one of the top 3 mediums in the entire game. Well, I mean, it's tier 10, and it's one of the best tier 10 mediums, so not a huge call. Not a hot take, not as hot as I'd like it. We need to drive that clickbait, drive that click-through. Why is this tank so good? Why does it perform so well at tier 10? And what is a little bit of the history and the meta for the tank? We're going to talk about that. So let's get there. To do this review, I drove a bunch of games in the E50M, as is my want. It's not like the hardest thing to do, because it's like a fantastic tank. But I then solicited reviews, replays from other people, and I've used those as well. Now I had a bunch of 4K games, but there were some better games came in on, look at this, watch this RAM. Yeah, that was 760 damage. If you were wondering why this thing is so lethal against other mediums, that's a big part of it. Russian mediums hate dealing with an E50M up close and personal. This is not a fun tank for another medium to brawl in close proximity. You can jam it into their grill and absolutely do all kinds of nasty things. You'll constantly tap them for 100 damage as you push and prod, and those numbers add up. And then the armor profile is pretty spectacular as well. So they all these things combine to make the tank really, really good. Now, one of the things that I do love the most about the tank is because of the armor profile, the bulk of it, and the fact that it's a German tank. It's built to side scrape, even as a medium tank. You can use this thing as a pocket battleship, and I've used that term before in E50M reviews. The big difference to the 50M these days is that it's just slowly moved up the rankings. Every single time there's a buff or a nerf for a medium at tier 10, it's usually on the buff end of the spectrum. And that means that the tank has just become better and better, and it's a tank I liked a lot in the first place. The big knock on the E50M used to be the DPM was just absolutely incredibly bad. It was really well under 3,000 DPM, which is like the minimum requirement for a tier 10 medium. It's now at about 3,200 DPM, damage per minute. Now that's not as good as, say, a Leopard 1 that's at 3,560, I want to say. I bet you it's just about there anyway. But it has some other very, very big redeeming qualities. Namely, it's a lot faster than people give it credit for. It's not that far off the pace in terms of movement. Its power to weight ratio is actually pretty good. It's now at 21.34, and that's under the Leo and those 62. Let's go and have a look. I want to, because I don't think it's that far under. I remember doing this last time I had a look at the 62A. Yeah, so the power to weight ratio on the T62A is 17.42. The power to weight ratio on the E50M is 21.34. Now that sounds amazing, but then you factor in terrain resistance and everything like that, and you realize that it's actually below those two tanks quite considerably. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's got a big engine, and it's got a high top end speed, and it's got a lot of horsepower. It's 1,320. So once you get it going downhill, it holds that speed really, really well. That's Bushka running 4K. There's no masteries at the moment because of that crazy uprising thing, so don't stress about that. It holds that speed really well. So if you get it pushing, say, to the corner on Port Bay, you can get there pretty quickly because it's a downhill slope to the water, and it will do 60. So a lot of people don't realize that although it's slow or not slow, it's not as nimble as some of the other mediums, it's actually not a slow tank. But what it does very, very well is play a pseudo heavy tank like this, where a lot of guys will be pushing corners, and you've got this massive upper plate that you can use almost as a shield. The upper plate in the E50M is just at 328, resting E50M face. So just looking dead on into the tank, it's 328. You can angle it up towards the high 400s. You can get the angles on the side. I mean, it starts at the 225 mark, and the real key with it is that it'll become an auto bounce zone, because like many German tanks, the sides aren't completely flat, they're slightly angled. So if you're looking at, I'm going to use my T62A model provided here by Iverson, who you'll see at the end of the video. I feature one of Iverson's games. If you look at this part of the tank here, see on the 62A, that is a flat side, and you can actually HE a 62A along there. And E50M sides are slightly angled in, and that means that when you angle up and you start using the 8 degrees of gun depression, you end up with an edge that's like this at 250 millimeters, and it's actually an auto bounce zone. Before it becomes a really high number, it'll just go straight to an auto bounce zone. So the fact that you've got 260 millimeters of face on the turret, you don't really have a gun mantlet. You've more or less got a very strong area on the front plate of the turret. Means that this tank is very, very capable of going hull down, especially against other mediums. Other mediums have just... If you're in another medium, you hate this tank. And it went through a real renaissance period where the E50M was the king of the hill in terms of esports mediums. The T22 untouchable, uncatchable, whatever the hell it's called, the stupid tank that shouldn't be treated as a esports medium, is probably a better tank than it. But I mean, like, if you're saying that a completely broken tank is better than you, and that's a very good position to be in. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about with the E50M. You're going to see here, I just hold the line against the 54 and an Object 140. The lower glacis is standard. It's pretty weak. So what you want to be doing with this tank is getting it close to those Russian mediums. You want to get it close. Every time I nudge him, we're going to do a little bit of damage. We're going to do more damage than he does to us on the nudge. And we just want to keep it close like this. Track him if we can. And that upper plate, it's just like a shield. You can walk around with it and it's fantastic. And if you can get like a T54, it pushes into you and you can put your upper plate into him, look, he's got so little chance. The T54's heat round will do 300, right? And unless he can get you on a dead flat area either side of the gun mantlet, the upper plate's got too much pen free. Like, it's 328 millimeters on the upper plate, unangled. So a T54 being face hugged by an E50M, any tier 9 medium being face hugged by an E50M is gonna suck. And you need to get the tank really close to the bad guys. Face hugging is a skill that's a little bit lost in Blitz these days, I find, with the predominance of big ass heavy tanks, but in mediums it's very, very big ass TDs and heavies, but in mediums I find it to be an exceptionally strong, if you know your armor numbers, a tank like the T54 is going to suck to be in when you're faced with an E50M, or even a T62A or an Object 140. They all have the same kind of heat pen. 300 millimeters of heat pen in your Leopard 1, in your... All these tanks, they max out generally around about 300. And so I'm now going to show you a couple of games from a few other humans driving the E50M, and I'm going to show you a little bit of Iverson's game in the E50M, not the whole thing. The knock on the E50M has always been the DPM and the penetration. There is a secret to the E50M. I don't know if you guys realize this, but the HE round on an E50M is 450. That's higher than the norm. The norm for a HE round on a medium is about 400. So you get an extra 12%, 13% of HE damage, and you should take advantage of that whenever you get the chance. It's something a lot of people don't realize, and the ramming damage. So if you can use those two things, straight away there's a point of difference, and it gives the tank a particular playstyle. I will let you in on a little secret. It's not a huge secret if you've watched the channel for a long time. I've loved the E50 series and the E50M for an awfully long time, and one of the big parts about it is the ramming. But more than that, it's a classic looking vehicle. This is the tank that you really think you're gonna get when you get the Panther. If you've ever seen a Panther in real life, it doesn't look like a World War II tank. I've looked at the Panther now 3 times when I visited the Tank Museum at Bovington for Tank Fest. Hats off to Wargaming, thanks for inviting me. And every time I see it, every single time, I'm amazed that that is a tank that existed before like 1980. It's sleek, it's devastating in its angles, and its design is space age and futuristic. You compare it to the tanks that it was fighting against, like T-3485s and KV-1s, and the Panther looks freaking incredible. And the tank that you get at Tier 7 in World of Tanks Blitz does not resemble the Panther at all in its performance. It's a joke. And I've said this for a long time. It's like a paper tank with a really, really nice gun. The Panther in reality was this incredibly well-designed tank with crazy angles, massive amounts of armor, super-powered engine, and an epic gun. And that's what you get in the E50M. It's the tank that you thought you were going to get when you were driving a Panther. See that 500 HE roll? That's because the E50M has that special big damage HE. It's not super high pen HE, but it is super high damage, high explosive. Excuse me. Still kicking that cough I picked up in Singapore. So I've always loved the concept of the Panther, and the E50M is like the realization of that concept. It really is a spectacular looking vehicle with a very Panther-esque chassis and turret, and it's got all those characteristics: high-end speed, big armor profile. And if you do love that style of tank, then this is something you should definitely be looking at. Everyone should be grabbing this tank. Like, it's been a good tank for a long time when driven correctly, and the fact that it's in a game that has got so many of these Russian and Chinese mediums, they just don't want to deal with this tank when they deal with it. It's phenomenal now that it's been buffed so many times. I get a feeling that eventually it's going to get a little bit of a nerf hammer because it really has been so good for so long. Great game here, by the way. Well done, amigo. This is a big mastery game that was sent in at my request by Dragon Creek. Well done, amigo. Hats off to you. You're the real MVP. Well done. Well done. Well done. Should have been a mastery, but of course we've got uprising going on. So, that's not happening. And this is just the end of the game from Iverson, my amigo Iverson, on the NA server from Premo. And this is a great example. I included this little snippet here because this is a great example of the E50M doing E50M things, which is role-playing a heavy tank in the tight. Really using that upper plate and getting shots blocked, and then using a surprising amount of lovely little bit of driving there by the Ivo, straight through into the side of the Jagdtiger. Look at this. I mean, this is a very slow tank, the Jagdtiger, but the 50M is more than capable of doing things like this, and this is where it performs at its peak. Very, very close. It's got a great gun in terms of accuracy, one of the best dispersion guns in the game, .272 without any buffs to the gun handling, which is really, really nice. And the aim time, 1.72 seconds, is just about on pat. The fact it got 0.8 degrees of dispersion these days to go along with its wonderful gun handling and its incredible bulk and its great armor and its upgraded DPM is... I mean, why the hell wouldn't you drive one of these things? Look at this. It's a great drive. Great drive, Ivo. Great drive. He's a little bit sloppy at the start, but we didn't need to use that footage, so we just use this. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Just get around. See that? That's an auto bounce angle, and that's that side armor we're talking about. The Batchat couldn't get the gun around quick enough, and so instead of getting an easy pen, he just got an auto bounce. And there's that HE into the top turret. Yes, love that HE. Another bounce. Oh, big HE damages. Why he's shooting the upper plate here, I'm not sure. It's not good for him, and now he doesn't have a lot of choice. He can't get the gun down, and HE damage and bullying him, and the Batchat is like, why has this thing got the armor of a tier 10 heavy tank? And Iverson is like, I don't freaking care, man. Have another bounce. Give me my... oh, there we go. Yep. Show me the money, baby. Look after yourselves, boys and girls. Hope you enjoyed that one. E50M coming down the pike to you. Share, like, subscribe. And until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.